All right, we are live in effect on this Friday night. We have a lot to unpack in regards to the boxing world. I mean, it just seems like it just goes from bad to worse, really, with the boxing. And, yet we still support it. We still hope for the best in this nut old game of boxing. I mean, I really don't know even where to start with the whole boxing. Um, I mean, let's just start with the Spence and the Pacquiao cancellation. I mean, a lot of people are saying that Spence is ducking. A lot of people are saying that Spence is chicking out. A lot of people are questioning Spence's injury. You even have Bernard Hopkins that was questioning Spence's injury. And the thing is that we don't know what happened behind the scenes in the camp. Okay, he probably was going through a lot of like intensive work, hard work. Probably was getting that work in sparring even. And because of that, that's how the injury occurred. But we don't know. We really don't know. So it's not for us to, throw the stone and say, oh, he's ducking the Pacquiao fight because of that injury. I mean, any injury is pretty serious. Why would you want someone to fight another guy when they're not at 100%? That will make for a non-competitive fight, or it'll make for a less competitive fight. So I don't know why some people are saying that he's ducking the fight, that he's, pulling out because he knows he can't win the fight. The injury was serious. I mean, he got the surgery. Some people are saying that the eye that he said that his eye was the eye patch was on the wrong eye. But it's just like so many people are coming up with these things, and it's like, okay, well, bruh, we just got to take what he said, for what he's been showing us, and he showed that he got the surgery, right? So, as a replacement fight, we got Pacquiao and Ugas, and the thing is that with that fight, um, I don't know, man. I've always been an Ugas fan. The only like downside to Ugas is the lack of power, you know, and the thing is that in order to get Pacquiao's respect, you're going to need some power. And that's like the major thing he's lacking. Ugas lacks power. So, with that being said, it's like, I really don't know if he can possibly keep Pacquiao off of him, truthfully speaking, because of the lack of power. You know, um, we know Ugas can box, and we know that Ugas fights mid range most of the time. So if he fights close range, however, that's going to spell the end for him, because we know how like Pacquiao likes uh, the opponent to get close, and then that's how he lets off his stuff. So hopefully, it's going to be a good fight. Hopefully, it's going to be a competitive fight, and hopefully, like, I mean, we can only hope for the best from the fight. So hopefully this fight will make us like be like, oh well, it's not so bad. We still got this fight. Um, Even though we didn't get the Earl Spence Pacquiao fight, this is still entertaining enough for us to be satisfied. Hopefully that's the case when we talk about the fight between those two, Pacquiao and Ugas. So, I mean, Earl Spence, he's probably not going to fight this year again. He's probably done fighting for the year. Um, I think he's just going to recover and probably spend time on the ranches with his horses and take some reflection, you know? Because, I mean, even with the links sparring footage and stuff like that, we don't know what happened behind that sparring footage. And also, it needs to be said that it is sparring and that kind of thing happens in sparring. So I'm not really surprised about it because I think what was happening is Earl Spence was trying to mix it up on the inside because he was prepared to go on the inside with Pacquiao, but we never know. But I mean, we're still getting a competitive fight, hopefully. Hopefully, it's going to be competitive. Now, unfortunately, another guy's, well, I won't call Earl Spence's a pullout. No, the dude was injured. But now another guy's pullout game is real, Mr. Tyson Fury. Now, the thing is about the Tyson Fury fight is that now we're hearing reports from his father. We haven't really heard from Fury yet, so to say. But now his father is talking about pulling out of the fight because of Tyson Fury's newborn baby. You know, he wants, I believe what he was alluding to is that he wants Tyson Fury to take care of the baby before everything else, before the fights. And, you know, to be honest, bro, I wouldn't be surprised if Tyson Fury pulled a Luke Campbell and said that, you know, I'm retiring from the sport of boxing to focus on my family. You know, to be honest, what the WBC should do is just try to find a way to strip him. I mean, that's honestly what I would do because I don't think he has any intention of defending the belt or doing anything the or doing anything else like trying to unify or anything. You know, so if I were the WBC, I would just strip him, you know, because this is crazy. Um, if he does decide to fight Wilder, we may not see this fight until December because of the way Tyson Fury is pulling out. And then another thing that was said by the father, which is telling, is that the camp hasn't really been looking too good. You know, he hasn't been really looking stellar in camp. Um, there was talks that he's just focused on the knockout. So because he's just focused on the knockout, they're neglecting other things. There's talks that he got knocked out by sparring partners. You saw interviews of him marked up and everything like that. So we don't know what's going on in Camp Fury right now, right? And we may never know what's going on there. But what I do know, and this is what I would do if I was Deontay Wilder. If I were Deontay Wilder, you know, I'm just going to be real. And I know it sounds crazy, but he could have been taking a tune-up fight during these times, waiting for Fury. Because it, as it stands right now, it's just really a waiting game for Fury. So in the meantime, to get the juices flowing and get things back, if I were him, I would take a tune-up fight. Um, it's actually too late to do that. But if I was Deontay Wilder, I would have took a tune-up fight like in August. You know, on the August date, I would have taken a tune-up fight. Provided that I was successful in that tune-up fight, I would have fought Fury at the end of the year. And like, okay, we can fight at the end of the year then, you know, just to close the year out. And that would have been a good way to close the year out. But I guess Deontay Wilder had other ideas, you know. So now I'm of the belief that this fight doesn't even happen. I'm of the belief that Tyson Fury retires, rides off into the sunset, says that, you know, I need to take care of my kids. My kids come first before boxing, this, that, and the other. Because I think that what happened was there were some complications with his newborn daughter. Now, I don't know what those complications are, but that's what was said, that there were some complications with the new girl. Now, you know, um, with Deontay Wilder and the fans and the diehard Wilder fan base, I guess if they don't get this fight, you know, unfortunately they'll have more fuel to the fire and they'll be like, oh, this just shows he did cheat and this, that, and the other. But hopefully they realize that, you know, the second fight already happened. The third fight, who knows what would have happened in the third fight. And, you know, if they don't get to see it, then, you know, hopefully people just move on, right? So as it stands right now, Wilder Fury, the trilogy is still in the air. Now, we have, I guess this is coming out the woodworks. We're having this being told to us that the Canelo Caleb Plant fight is they're coming to an agreement. Negotiations are ongoing. Um, and word has it that they're actually coming to an agreement for the fight. So if the fight does happen before the end of this year, I would be utterly surprised. But I guess it's a good thing because then they'll have more time to prepare, or at least Caleb Plant will have more time to prepare for the fight. It won't just be rushed into the fight. But I don't know, man. I don't know what's going to happen in the fight. I don't even know if the fight gets made. Still, you know, I still think there may be some doubt in the fight actually getting made, right? Because who knows what will happen? You know, there may be a loophole thrown in there last minute, and then it just like cancels everything. Well, we just have to wait and see, right? Um, Personally, the way I feel about Caleb Plant, and people know I like boxers, I like technical boxers, skilled boxers, and stuff like that. Thing is about Caleb Plant, like that I realize when I watch him fight, it looks like he tries too hard. Looks like he tries too hard to be slick. Looks like he tries too hard to be like like a sweet science guy. It looks like he tries too hard to do it. When you look at other guys, though, it's like a natural thing. It's like they have the ability to make it look easy. But when you look at Caleb Plant, it's almost like it looks like he's forcing the issue, especially in his last fight against Caleb Truex. I guarantee you, if he was more fluid and more relaxed, he would have got him out of there. But it's easier said than done. But it's just I find it like better when you're relaxed. You know what I mean? It's way better when you are. But again, easier said than done. when there's a guy in front of you who wants to do the same thing as you, right? Now, there is something I guess we can say, okay, we're getting something, and that's the Shakur Stevenson and Jamel. I think his name is Jamal Herring, whatever his name is. But we're getting that fight, and it's a good thing that we are getting that fight because at this point we're at slim pickings when it comes to boxing. We don't have like we're not getting the marquee fights, and that's just the bottom line. You know, the marquee fights are not available, and that's the whole issue. Okay, but this is a marquee fight. You have a champion and a challenger, and you have a hungry challenger. I believe is going to put on a clinic against Jamal Herring. Okay, now to make things even better, but it's going to be hard to do because I mean, I'm gonna be real. Jamal Herring is no slouch. I'm just gonna keep it honest. But to get the knockout is gonna be kind of difficult. But if Shakur Stevenson does get the knockout, that means we can officially say that he's arrived. That he's arrived on the scene and that he's the new sheriff in town. Right? That will also mean that one of two things will happen with Shakur Stevenson. The first thing would be that since he has a promotion mate in Oscar Valdez, those two unify the belts. Or if Oscar Valdez is reluctant to fight him, he moves up and tests the water at 135 because he's already a big 130 pounder. You know, he's already like, I mean, I kind of see, I'm kind of actually surprised that he actually makes the weight at 130 pounds still. You know, because he looks big, bro, at that weight class. He looks really big. So I don't know if he stays, but if he doesn't stay and he's like, okay, let me test the waters at 135, that means that, you know, we will have to see these fights. We will have to see a fight. We will have to see a Shakur Stevenson versus Devin Haney. We will have to see a w- at least some of these guys mix it up. Okay, we will have to see it. Okay. Um, Speaking of the lightweight division, Mr. Rolando Romero himself, aka Rolly, aka Devin Haney's the biggest female dog in boxing, aka Devin Haney's the chinniest, aka Devin Haney is irrelevant. Word on the street is he turned the fight down. Word on the street is he lied about sending a contract to Devin Haney. So that just goes to tell me that Mr. Romero was just using Devin Haney's name to get more notoriety, and he got it. You know, he got it. One article pointed out that he declined the fight. So, with that being said, I hope he got what he wanted, but at the same time, he has to understand something. You can't get the fans' hopes up while we know you won't fight, while we know you're not going to fight the guy you're calling out, when we know you're not going to fight the guy who you're being disrespectful to, right? So, with that being said, Devin Haney is still without a fight. And the thing is about Devin Haney is he's trying to stay active as he should as a young fighter. You know, that's one thing that's good about being a young fighter or and just being a fighter that is and just being a fighter that you don't have any wear and tear is activity. You want to stay active. You know, that's part of the game. Is activity because in one way it's good that you stay in the gym, you stay fit, you stay uh on your square even when you don't have fights coming up. But it's another thing when you have fights and you're fighting a lot because of the simple fact that you're getting comfortable. I should say you're getting more comfortable in the ring, and the ring rust and ring rust is not a thing to you. So that's why I say that it is better for fighters to stay active if you're not taking a lot of wear and tear. Now, if you're going through back-to-back wars, what I mean, blocking shots with your head and what have you, and what I mean, that's your form of defense, then yeah, you may want to just fight once a year. You may not want to fight all the time. But if you're not taking a lot of damage and you're able to, you know, do good things, then yeah, fight. Fight often. Because here's the thing about it. Like when you even look at Floyd, I think Floyd fought multiple times a year at times. And even when Floyd was like older, he still fought like twice a year, I think. And that's pretty good. And so that's why I'm saying that other fighters should take heed to that. And I know Devin Haney wants to be active because I mean there's a lot of activity out there. And I'm pretty sure that if left up to him and his own devices, he would run them all down. He would fight a Richard Comey. He would fight like a Jojo Diaz. He would fight all these guys. You know what I mean? That's the thing. So that's why I'm like, that's why it should be something that should not be difficult. But I mean, again, in order to dance, most of the time you need a dance partner. You can't dance by yourself in boxing. You know what I mean? Even when you're hitting the bag, your bag's your dance partner. Even when you're doing the double ended is the dance partner. So I really don't know what kind of fights are available to Devin Haney right now. Well, there's a lot of fights available, but I really don't know who's gonna like step up and fight him. He has a belt. That's a part of boxing. Boxing is about being a champion because if you become a champion, you earn more money and you earn the right to um how should I put it? You earn that you get more say so, you know? And I think that's an important thing in boxing. You always want more say so. You always want to be able to push buttons. You know what I mean? You should never be satisfied just being like, okay, um, I got a title defense, but I'm not trying to win the title. Or no, how should I say it? I'm a title challenger, but I'm not trying to fight for a title. I'm just trying to fight lower level opposition and be content with that. You should never have that. You should always have ambition in boxing. You know, I'll give you a perfect example. And I believe him. I completely believe him. Everybody knows I'm big on Joran Ennis on this platform. Everybody knows I like Joran Ennis. Everybody knows I think Boots is the truth. But there was interview, for example, there was an interview where a guy asked him, Who do you think is the best welterweight in the world right now? Jerron Ennis said me. Okay. And I'm like, okay, talk your shit, man. Because I truly believe he's the best welterweight in the world, and he just wants to prove it. You know what I mean? And again, he has the ambition to do so. But when you have fighters like, no disrespect, but when you have fighters like Jojo Diaz, when you have fighters like Ryan Garcia, when you have fighters like Roly, when you have fighters like Richard Comey, who cap about wanting to prove that they're the top dog at 135, it's hard for us to like take what they say at face value. But when you have a fighter like Joran Ennis, and that nigga just straight out says, um, when asked, who do you think's the best welterweight in the world? That nigga says me. Then okay, it's obvious that he believes that he's the best one. But then some other things we have in boxing. Speaking of the welterweight division, it looks like we will probably get the Sean Porter, um, Terrence Crawford fight. It will go to purse bid, and the reason being, Bob Arum doesn't want to spend money on Terrence Crawford. Um, the thing is, Bob Arum can't really make as much return on his investment on Terrence Crawford, and the reason is this: although some boxing pundits will name Terrence Crawford pound for pound number one, he doesn't really have a media presence. And because he doesn't have a media presence, it's hard to market him. You know what I mean? Um, when you really look at it, mostly the only people who know who Terrence Crawford is are the hardcore boxing enthusiasts. But if you ask like the the occasional boxing fan, okay, who's Terrence Crawford? They won't be able to answer you. That's the bottom line. They won't know who Terrence Crawford is. So the thing is that with that being said, Bob Arum can't really generate a lot of revenue with Terrence Crawford since not a lot of people know Terrence Crawford. Only people who really pay attention to boxing know Terrence Crawford, right? The rest don't really know him. So that's why I think it's going to purse bid. It's because Bob said he don't want to spend money on him, you know. And it's sad, but again, I think Terrence Crawford's best bet is just leave Top Rank and go start another adventure. Definitely not with Top Rank though. So we'll see what happens. That'll be a good scrap. Sean Porter, Terrence Crawford. Once if the fight is made, I know it sounds crazy, but I actually got Showtime Sean Porter winning that fight. You'll be surprised what that dude can do. And I'm not saying that Terrence Crawford is less skilled or less able than Showtime Sean Porter, but it's just that Showtime Sean Porter, he's just more experienced with the top welterweights, and he can just do a little bit of everything. And sometimes, if you just do a little bit of everything rather than a lot of only one thing, you can win a fight. You know what I mean? But we'll see what happens. We'll see if the fight is even made, really. You know. So, in other boxing news, unfortunately, another fight was canceled due to COVID-19. We had David Benavidez, who was going to do a title eliminator against Jose Bolavito Uzcategui. you know. So with that being said, I really don't know how are they just going to reschedule the fight, or does Uskachigi want still fight during that during his recovery, during Davis Benavidez's recovery. I don't know if Uskachigi wants to fight, or will he just wait it out until David Benavidez makes a recovery and then he'll fight. I don't know. But the thing is, Uskachigi, he stays in shape. That's the one thing. Like when you look at Uskachigi social media, he really never has to worry about cutting weight. Like that dude, pretty much when he doesn't have fights, he stays on weight most of the time. So I don't know. Speedy recovery to David Benavidez. The COVID hit him from left field. I wasn't expecting that either. So hopefully he recovers soon and we can get the fight. I'm just hoping we see the best of Uskachigi. I hope we see the Uskachigi that used his boxing ability against previous opponents and it was successful. I hope we see that guy. I hope we see the guy whose punches sounded like damn M80s. You know what I mean? So it remains to be seen what will happen in regards to that. I really wanted that fight to happen, but we're gonna have to wait for that fight, right? So with that being said, there really isn't that much other boxing news I can think of. There was actually something else I wanted to talk about in regards to the boxing. Um, Something happened. Yeah, Robert Easter. I think Robert Easter needs to wake up, smell the coffee. He needs to do more boxing inside the ring than boxing outside of the ring with the opposite sex. He actually hit a woman and damaged her badly. That's what they said in Ohio. And that's not a good look, bro. If you're a boxer, you should never ever use that gift against someone who was not given that gift. You by default have the power to kill someone. Salute, man. What up? What up? What up, man? Thanks for stopping by. So what we have is Robert Easter getting in legal entanglements because he can't keep his hands to himself. If you have boxing ability, you gotta like really realize that that's a big responsibility to have, and you shouldn't use it to like terrorize people. You should only use it for self-defense. But I guess he had other ideas when he went upside a woman's head. All he had to do was walk away. That's it. So, in essence, this year has been kind of crap for boxing. It really has. We haven't really seen the fights that really we want to see. And it seems like more of the fights that we want to see are being canceled. I don't know if there's things going on behind the scene that are making these cancellations happen. I really don't know. But all I'm going to say is there's a chance we don't see Wilder Fury 3. I could be jumping the gun, but I think Fury retires off into the sunset. I really do. The Spence Pacquiao fight is off. And the thing about that fight is how long is it going to be until Spence fights the winner? We don't know that because he has the problem with his eye. So the winner, him fighting the winner, could happen 2022. No time soon. That fight's out the drain. And now we got these people playing tag in the lightweight division. Okay. It would be nice to get one lightweight, good, decent lightweight scrap by the end of the year. Okay. You still got Teofimo Lopez playing musical chairs with this Triller thing and fighting Cambosis in Australia. You still got him trying not to fight him in Australia, which I understand. He's the A side. I understand he has more belts, but at the same time, why wouldn't you want to get that fight over with so you can fight the Teofimo, or I mean, fight Devin Haney, possibly fight the Tanks? It seems like he's just pushing this fight more and more. But at the same time, he may not even fight Devin Haney. He may, provided he's successful against Kambosis, he may fight Lomachenko again, provided he's successful against Richard Comey. So as it stands right now, boxing is in a pretty shit place right now. I'm just going to be honest, because many people are canceling, and you know, the fights that we wanted to see are kind of hanging on by a thread. And I don't know, man. I really don't know what to say at this point, except to keep watching it. I mean, we have a good fight coming tomorrow with Rigondeaux, and everybody knows I F with Rigondeaux heavy. I don't know if he still has it though at his age against Casemiro. I mean, we're gonna see tomorrow. But Rigo, he's always been a fighter that I've always thought was one of the most skillful fighters, one of the most hardest hitting fighter that I've ever seen, and one of the only fighters that will rehearse what he's about to hit you with before he hits you with it. That's the crazy thing about Rigo. Rigo will straight out like rehearse. Walaikum salam rahmatullah barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. If you want to come up here, inshallah, you can come up here and we can talk about the other stuff. You know, right now I'm just talking about some boxing, but if you want, we can segue into some other things, inshallah. You know, you can come up here and we can segue into other stuff. It's no problem. I don't mind doing that at all. You know, Rigo might be too ugly. I don't think. Well, we'll just see if he's too old. You know, he's been fighting a long time, and to be honest, I don't even know Rigo's real age. That Rigo could be 50 years old. You know, that's why I understand. Rigo Rigo can be 50 years old. We don't know. Yeah, you know, yeah, yeah, he may be. Yeah, he may be. He may be too old. All right, I'm gonna drop the link, inshallah, and we can like just chop it up, inshallah. I'm gonna drop the link in the description box, and then we can talk about the other stuff. Um, there's some things that we can talk about. You know, Sean King doing the fraudulent thing. Now we have Tariq Nasheed doing the fraudulent thing. We also have the same young Pharaoh character who is reverting to his same ways, unfortunately. You know, he's reverting to his same ways and entertaining the same women and not really learning, you know, from his previous ways. You know, he's not really learning. He hasn't really learned anything. You know what I mean? But yeah, I'm gonna drop the link. Inshallah, we can talk about it. Um, I think I spent like 30 minutes talking about boxing, so we can move on. We can move to something else, inshallah. And you can also talk about it too. Talk about what you want to talk about, inshallah. Drop the link on the bottom. There's a link. You know, hop up on here and we can talk. You know, put the link there. Try to be more consistent going on live, inshallah. It's just that I'd be running around and stuff. Don't really be having that much time, but inshallah, I'm gonna make time. Inshallah, I'm also gonna get a which one call it too. I'm also gonna get like a microphone. Well, I'm probably gonna end up doing. Um, I'm probably gonna like use a certain space in the house and just use that for like this. Just build some stuff for this purpose. You know, so I can really bring out the quality in it. Like I can really have it like sounding really quality, really professional. Inshallah, I think I'm gonna do that. That'll be like one of the projects I work on. You know, because it is, you know, we if you're gonna do something, of course you should do it to you should do it to a high level if it's something you want to do. So yeah. Well, inshallah, yeah, if you want to hop on or what have you, that's fine. I'm gonna mute up real quick and then you can hop on. I'm gonna just like mute up for like 5 minutes or so. Because I'm gonna go do something real quick. Take your time. Speaking of laptops, like undecided, um, because it's like the MacBook is good and things like that. But they also advertise these Google laptops. But I'll decide. But I'm definitely gonna level up on the laptop too. Most definitely, I'm gonna level up on my laptop game. You know what I mean? I have a Google laptop right now, but I want to upgrade and see which one is like best. So I'm gonna have to like shop around basically because it won't be just used for this; it'll be used for other purposes. You know. But yeah, um, but yeah, bro, these are some crazy times we're living in. That's all I gotta say. Like we're living in some weird times, very very weird times. Times where you it's basically gotten to the point where you have to where you just have to everything has to be yes or no. Everything has to be brief, you know. It can't be long-winded with Western women. It can't be long-winded anymore, unfortunately, because of the craziness going on, you know. That's why I'm coming to understand, you know, even like when they say hi or something like that, I just keep it high and just keep moving. That's it. No small talk, no nothing. You know, yes or no answers. That's it. Just keep everything moving because it's just crazy, weird, goofy times we're living in. Especially when you see more of these nut old TikTok videos and you see their evilness. You know, it's sad, but it's true, bro. It's very true. And I guess you can say it's a gift and a curse. It's a gift because you get to see it for yourself. You know, they'll tell on themselves. It's a curse that there's an outlet for them to do that. You know, so there's a good and a bad. The good is that you get to see them do it for themselves, and that you get to see them show their hands. The bad thing is that they have these hands to show. That's the bad thing in regards to this whole situation we're in right now. You know, it's very, very sad. Yeah, I just before I did this, I think like maybe a couple of hours ago, you know, I uploaded something. Yep, bring them on. Salam alaikum, rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. In Jeddah, I'm sorry, I forgot how to say how are you. In Jeddah means thank you.
You can say Alaton, that's fine, and I can say City Tahe as well.
Okay. All right. Allah
Yeah,
Tom.
yeah, yeah. Jump tune. I can say City Tahe too.
Okay, fair enough then. So
Yeah,
Alahon and okay, I'm going to remember this. I'm going to, matter of
yeah,
fact, let me write this down now.
yeah,
And as a
yeah,
matter of fact, when I was on vacation in the States in my hometown, I went
yeah,
into the one shop in my hometown
yeah,
run by somebody from back home, if you catch my drift. And
yeah, 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 yeah.
so I didn't expect to run into specifically a Fulani speaker, but I ran
Yeah,
right into a Fulani speaker. And
yeah,
the thing was, he was actually quite helpful in teaching me.
yeah, 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 yeah.
That was a big help to me. So I started asking, and then I went outside and I got on Google Translate. And it's funny because on
Mhm.
the phone I can get Google Translate in Fulani, but I
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
get it on a laptop. You see?
yeah. That's weird.
Yep.
Yeah,
It was odd that I could go on the phone and actually find some. No, wait. I'm sorry. You know what? I believe I made a mistake. He was a Hausa speaker. That's what it
Oh, he
was.
was a Hausa. So he spoke like he would say Lafia when you said I believe, because I know a little bit of Hausa because I have like an uncle who works in Nigeria. So I think they say Ya Keke, and then they say Lafia for like I'm doing well, and then they say I think Nagode for thank you. So I know a little bit. Like I think Enemagani means like Enemagani Hausa means like I speak Hausa. So I would have to like talk more to my uncle, but he knows that Hausa stuff.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
and it is, yeah. In Alafia would be I'm fine,
Yeah.
and yeah, they use it from the Arabic word afia,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
which
yeah.
which means a relief of some sort or things just
Yeah,
being
yeah,
okay.
yeah. Yeah, like you say Allahumma saluka alfia. Alfia, like if you want like, just peace in your life and stuff like that, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
the funny thing is, one of the translations is just Lafia with a question mark to say how are
Yeah.
you,
Oh, I
and
didn't know that. I didn't know
and
that.
that's actually a mistranslation because that as a question simply means good or scrape. You good. It's really that's really what the translation should be.
Like,
But
oh, are you okay? Like basically, are you okay? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep, sure is. So I mistakenly mixed that up, and the reason is because in northern Nigeria, a lot of the
Mhm.
Hausa and the Fulani are intermarried. So their
Yeah, yeah,
languages
no,
are
no.
different, but they're
As a matter
intermarried.
of
That's why I
fact,
messed them up.
no, as a matter of fact, my uncle basically said, like when he's in the north of Nigeria, he basically said he doesn't even like identify as a Fulani. He just says, "Oh, I'm House of Fulani." He doesn't even say just like, "Oh, I'm pure Fulani." He just says, "Oh, I'm House of Fulani" because of the simple fact of the history between the two people over there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So much for the idea that African tribes can't get along, huh?
Yeah, the thing is like, listen, man. Like for even example for me, like my branch of Fulani, we're called the Torogbe. And the thing is that, you know, our branch of Fulani may not have been Fulani originally, but because of the intermarriage and because of like the interaction, we just eventually adopted it. You know what I mean? So that's why like the like when people talk about tribalism, most of the tribalism comes from resource hunting, you know, because you have to understand when you're, dominated by a foreign power and that foreign power is taking your resources. I mean, you 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 unfortunately have to fight each other for the scraps that are left most of the time. So most of the time it doesn't have to do with an ethnic battle. It mostly has to do with a resource battle, you know.
So they would have fought anybody if everybody was the same tribe in a particular area. Then they would have been fighting amongst themselves.
Bro, it's happening right now. Trust me. Look, um, people like, for example, the Igbos, they want Biafra, right? It's a guarantee that if that were to happen, they would be fighting each other for those resources.
Okay, because there's
Yeah.
just not there's enough for everyone to have something, but there's not enough for everybody to be big man.
There's not even enough for everybody to have something. It's just that the Western powers will not leave. That's the whole thing. And so, but then the thing is too, they'll be selfish amongst each other too. Like that's the thing about the tribes. Like they'll more or less be selfish amongst each other. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they when I say enough for everyone to have something, I mean if you remove the Europeans who are stripping the bulk of it,
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah, yeah,
even
yeah. There would have been enough. There would have been enough. Yeah, definitely, definitely.
yes,
There would
indeed.
be. Yeah, there would have
Yes.
been enough for sure. Yes, definitely. Most
In that
definitely.
case, then it's just not enough for everybody to be rich. See, what it is we're scrambling to everyone's scrambling to be at the top, and by definition, someone has to not be at the top for someone else to be. We're all scrambling for a relative position that demands that someone else not get it in order for you to have it.
Well, that's the problem with these conscious Negroes. It's that they understand that unfortunately the way to the top is by conning, like, and unfortunately they con their own people to do it. Like you have Tariq Nasheed. You know, I mean, he bashes Islam. He doesn't like Islam, but number one, he has a Muslim name. But then number two, you talk about that you want to build a museum, you collect donations for that museum, and then all of a sudden you pop up on a vacation in Maldives. Like you're vying for position, and you got the position, but unfortunately you got the position based off of bad practices and basically based off of walking over people, you know.
In the event of, I mean, if it was most of us that took up donations for a museum, most of us, if we were going to go on vacation, you would think we would go on vacation to somewhere in the motherland. Yeah. And I'm sure he's traveled to the motherland, but
I don't know. To be honest, I don't know for sure if he has traveled to Africa. I'm not sure. You know, I do know because he was working on the film with Haiti. He did go to Haiti. That's what I do know.
Okay. And to a certain extent, that would make sense because that may be as close to Africa as you get in the Western Hemisphere.
True.
And it's a shorter flight. So I understand going to the gateway, which is certain parts of the Caribbean, Haiti especially. But in the end, it still comes down to the fact that if you have a choice and it's not work related where you just have to go to a particular location. Right. If you have a choice, you go to you go to wherever your supposed holy land is. And if the holy land is Africa for them, then that's where they would go. I mean, I would do that. As pro-black as I no longer am outside of being pro-black male. To a certain extent, if you give me an option, that's where I'm going to go. As a matter of fact, my wife and I we're trying to pick which part of the continent do we want to visit during the winter break. We're not really debating about whether or not it's going to be Africa, except Malaysia. We're trying to decide between Malaysia and then which part of Africa. So the only part outside of Africa that's in our consideration at this point for the winter break is Malaysia, where ironically, where they treat us the best. It's one of the few places that many people from Africa choose to go to, and they don't want to leave when they get there, unlike the West.
Right. And that's why I said on the last video that I made is that if you're a Western man, you're not better off with a white woman from the West. I know a couple of brothers who have married Muslim white women from like Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, like Uzbekistan, and they have like been very content with those marriages that they have. So I would suggest too, because as a matter of fact, those women don't even like the Western white women. They think they're savages, and they think that they have no morals or any integrity at all. So if I were, because in that section over there, in the Uzbekistan, in the Kazakhstans and stuff like that, you do have like Eurasians, like Asian looking women and whatnot, but you also have a contingent of white women as well.
There are, and if somebody just is attracted to the snow bunny, they could easily replace the snow bunny with an Eastern European, same race and phenotype, different morality. That's certainly true. And the ironic thing is that I just got through listening to a clip on Carlos Red's show from 3 weeks ago, and in that clip, there's an African American woman with a Senegalese last name, and ironically, she speaks French fluently. So she said that she was talking to 3 ladies from Mali, and they got into a discussion about African American women, not knowing she was African American. And she said that that's how she learned. By listening, she learned how African American women are viewed by non-Western Black women. And it's the same
and
thing.
how are they viewed? And how are they viewed? And how were they viewed? Like, tell me what they said, actually. Tell me what was said.
What I remember her saying was that it was negative. I don't remember the particulars because someone called in and interrupted before she got to that part. And if I listened more, I probably would pick up more. But she did say that it was negative, and that's how she realized how bad it was. That at first she thought we were just culturally distinct.
Yeah.
And then she realized that no, it's a cultural distinction with some negativities that are unanimously not tolerated on the continent, at least the parts from which we come. Now, I understand that on the continent, we got that BS, and I'm not letting that slide either.
In certain parts, yes, it's there.
Like Malawi, for instance, you've got a tribe where these men are called hyenas, and their job is to lay down with virgins before the virgins get married. And that's actually spread HIV. Well, Al Jazeera did something on that a while back. So we know the BS is there. But even other people around, even other cultures around would look at that and say, oh, that's nasty as hell.
Yes.
A similar thing happens in the Amazon. Some tribes in the Amazon wear more clothing than others. And so it's relative. The idea or the threshold for the definition of nudity usually depends on one's own tribe and their reference of dressing.
And to be honest, the nudity thing that, like, for example, like what the black, like what the African descendant woke person here will push is that they'll push, okay, well, before we were slaves, we are, before Europeans came to Africa, we were naked, and that is the farthest thing from the truth. There's probably like maybe a minority of tribes who actually engaged in that, and a lot of times those tribes were away from like society in general. They weren't in modern society. You have a couple of tribes in Ethiopia who practice it. They're amongst the like darker hued people. And you have a couple of tribes in probably like South Sudan who practice it, but it's not like a widespread, mainspread thing, as people try to make it out to be.
Attributing nudity to Africa in general is a white supremacist stereotype. To attribute nudity to a specific group of people that just didn't care, that's different. But we have these people that's why I call them no-tips. They don't really read much of anything, and they take these ideas from a Tarzan movie and then say, well, we were naked in Africa with the titties hanging out. It depends on which part you went to. And so in a nutshell, and that happened in the Amazon too, that has a lot more to do with the climate in which you live and the humidity than it has to do with necessarily just being African. But but the thing is that she was talking about but she said that in a nutshell, it was the attitude. I remember her mentioning that they were talking about the attitude of specifically the African-American woman. And now you and I know that that's not limited to African-American women. We know it's a Western problem.
It's a Western woman problem, because even I talked to one woman, okay, it was just by chance that I talked, because I was in the airport, I was waiting for my flight, and this one woman, she asked me for directions. And so I gave her the directions, but then it turned into small talk. And then she was from Azerbaijan, and she just let off on these Western women. She said that these Western women are nasty, they have no respect for their men, and that she went as far as to say that she doesn't even like the Western men either. She said that because of the way the Western woman has been able to do anything she wants, it affects the Western man too. So she said that like these Western men are not manly enough. And I told her, and I was just making a joke, I didn't mean it, I was just making a joke. I just said, yeah, they're soft, and I'm the cement, and she just started laughing. But because in a way she's right. You know, I see it all the time that a lot of these Western men too will compromise themselves and compromise their like themselves being men in order to please these women, you know, and you can just tell they're weak. Even the other day, they're and you see this a lot. I'm gonna tell you, you see, especially here in California, you see this a lot. And then I'll let you go ahead and say something. But I was walking to visit a friend in an apartment building, and you saw a Shaniqua with the Chad, you know, a Shaniqua with a Chad, a white dude. You can tell this white dude was insecure when he saw me walking up the stairs. I can sense it. I can sense that he was insecure. Like, I'm like, yeah, this dude's insecure as hell, you know? And because they walked really quick. As soon as they saw me coming up the stairs, they walked really quickly. They speeded up. And so I say that to say that, you know, she's with a basically she's with a dude that if another dude who may be more of a man than him even looks in that direction, then he would be alarmed and he would be insecure. That's what I was leading to.
Okay. Well, yeah. It is something to say that it tells us a lot when we are constantly called insecure as an eliminatory insult, and then other men are actually allowed to be insecure and still be with these same ladies.
Exactly. 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 That's it. That's it. You look at, for example, like Serena Williams, and her husband is just like, no disrespect, but that dude probably caters to her every move. But when she was like with a black dude, it was a problem. You know, it was a problem that he operated on his own truth. You know what I mean? And so this is what boggles my mind with these Western women, with the Shaniquas, with the Bonquishas. You guys put black men in the dirt, okay? And not just black American men. It's African men too. A lot of my friends have horror stories, and you know, I'm not gonna put their names out there or anything, but I had to bail them out of many situations that they got in with the Bonquishas and stuff like that. But what I'm getting at is that these Bonquishas will treat black men and throw them under the bus. But on the same note, when it comes to a Chad or a Kin, their attitude changes. It goes to literally a 360, basically. You know what I mean?
Yes, it absolutely does. Sadly enough, this lady from Azerbaijan had a valid point about the men, and she had one about the men and one about the women, several about the women, I'm sure.
Yes.
Women don't respect the men. The thing is, I'm not going to say that the men caused the disrespect intentionally or even recklessly.
Yeah.
This came about due to deceit. And that's what started that. It was, we were actually lied to about what they want. And so that's why it is that we had to deal with this in the first place.
Yes.
However, she said something about the men being weak, and we are wrong for allowing a lot of this stuff after we were able to see it. That was our mistake.
Yes, it was. Yes. Yes. Definitely. Most definitely. Another thing too is, and this is the way I operate and do it, because it's the best way I have to do it. You know, I refrain from even like giving them like the time of day, to a point where, like, you know, I definitely wouldn't stick my manioca in any of these women because they're just nasty. Because I'm sorry to say this, bro, but these Western women are like, you know, as men, right? As men, we're told that, oh, you know, all we think about is sex. all we think about is this, that, and the other. Oh, we think only about the physical, but in reality, the roles have been reversed in that now women think only about the physical, and now women only what women want more than anything is they just want a big thick one to like just ram in them, you know, for the most part. um I you know, one friend of mine, one friend of mine, and I just said, well, this is where we're at with it. You know, I mean, this is how predatory is became. It used to be a point back in the day, like way back in the day, where women would look at the type of person you were. The Western woman at that, they would look at, okay, does this guy have integrity? Does this guy have like good traits? Does this guy have like loyalty? Is this guy like, you know, they would look at those kind of tangible things, right? But now
So we
they don't
heard.
look that now they don't look at that. As a matter of fact, my friend told me many times that, you know, he was just asking random women, and they just basically said they want a big thick one to just like do the job. They said, as a matter of fact, if you know, are lacking in that department, but you were a decent person, they didn't care. You know what I mean? They would, it's just tough luck for you. You know what I mean? So I say this to say, I'm saying this because when these women ride the cock carousels and then decide to settle down, the guy they're settling down with probably couldn't please them anyway because of all the damage that was done to them before. That's what I'm getting at.
Well,
Because they,
underneath that,
yeah, go ahead.
there are layers to it. And
Yeah,
underneath the layer that you just mentioned and rightly pointed out, there's
yeah,
another layer, and that is that in reality, hardly anybody can. And really, when they're riding that carousel, they're looking not, that's the thing, they're not even looking to be pleased, they're looking to be damaged. So with they're seeking specifically that which will leave them as physically and emotionally numb as possible later on.
yeah,
Whether it's conscious or subconscious doesn't matter to us
yes,
because whichever once they're looking for it and they find it, and then
yeah,
once they find it, of course, as we know, it's war on the rest of men. It's war on the normal man, and it's and when I say war, I mean it's all sorts of cynicism for the normal man, and all sorts of blame for things we don't control, and
yes,
a demand for the resources and the
yes,
refusal of anything that would validate us. So, in a
yes,
nutshell, even though we don't think of it as damage per se, or they don't talk about that particular act as damage,
yes,
they're seeking damage. They're not seeking pleasure. It's specifically damage they're seeking, and they're
yes,
taking pleasure from that damage. That's why they're coming to us later on, and then looking at normal men and saying, well, you can't do nothing. The funny thing is, at this point, the only thing that they have left to look forward to when it comes to that act
yes,
is memories of how it was before.
yes,
And in those memories, the normal man does not exist. And so therefore they can't actually have a genuine attraction for the normal man later on. It's not possible.
absolutely not.
So
Absolutely not. And so that's why I want to get to the other point is when you have a guy like the guy on this show called Life After Lockup, the Deontay guy. Now,
mhm.
the sad thing about him, and this just goes to show you the failure in the military system here. This just goes to show you the failure with that, because you would think in military you would become a hardened man. You would think you would become like a man who's seen it all and did it all, but it didn't happen with him. So the thing is, I'm still scratching my head when I watch this man pour out all of his resources into this no good woman who in all, if you want to just use the technical term, who is a tramp, and you're giving your resources to this tramp, and she's not giving you absolutely anything in return. No sex, just teasing you. And not only is she teasing you, you're paying for her phone, you're paying for all these things, and she's getting her back blown out by someone else. And mind you, this is a Karen who's doing this to a black dude. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you're basically allowing yourself to be used. You're basically, I'm sorry to say it, allowing yourself to be emasculated by a woman who's more of a man than you are. Because the problem is with her is she, and that's another thing too, is why would you want to deal with a woman who's done 4 years for robbery anyway, and you're a Marine? I mean, I know this sounds crazy and far-fetched, but if you must be with someone, if you must be with someone, choose the lesser evil, and the lesser evil would be to choose someone like who's an army nurse or something like that. If you must, don't choose a former criminal, to give $30,000+ of your money to please. He even went as far as to say is that because she wants a boob job. She wanted a boob job. He went as far as to say that if I'll figure out a way to do the boobs, even if it means me not paying the rent. And I'm like, this Negro done lost his mind.
I honestly thought that when he said it, I heard that. Actually, I heard a clip of that day before yesterday when I was listening to Red. Yeah, when I was listening to RFD, her channel.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. هل ستأكل ذلك من الأرضية? Okay, all right, okay. طالما إنك بعافية. Okay. I'm sorry about that. I had to ask a question because I thought I had to ask a health related question actually. So anyway, I saw her. I saw RFD's take on this a day before yesterday, I believe. And when he said this to her, I thought he was being sarcastic.
Yes,
I did. It didn't cross my mind that he actually meant this. And one of the other things that made me think so was that this was a few minutes before he finds out she's actually catching up with and at least sitting in the car with her ex, God knows whatever else. And he went ahead and flipped out and showed what a line in the sand was. And so I understand a lot of that mindset. And what people don't realize is that much of that mindset is not based on weakness. It's based on a lack of knowledge.
Okay.
It's based on actual, and this is why one of the reasons why I said they're engaged in an informational war. You see, you can be very lenient and soft-mannered to someone for two reasons. One, you're weak. Two, you think they're weak.
Right.
We've been trained when we're chivalrous. We've been trained to think that that's how we're supposed to be with the opposite gender. And in an ideal world, you can do that and get away with it. But it's just he's one of those many men that's not been told about the mass deception and the way things have changed. This is how he was taught. And he didn't have proof of he didn't have proof of him being actually betrayed. He thought she was difficult, and he didn't know that he was dealing with someone that was actually treacherous. And see, that's why it is that I don't go in on these men very often for this. I go in on men for making certain things easy. He was willing to drop them drawers. He should have been the one to say no. He should have been the one to say no to anything else, period, from the start, because then he would have been able to avoid this. So the real flaw, because men ain't gonna understand women unless, of course, honest men come forward and say, well, this is what they're doing, or honest women come forward and say this is what they're doing. We've already learned mothers won't even tell their own sons the game. The good mothers are one that just doesn't.
Well, here's the thing about that, though. Even he should have just laid down the foundation from the start. He should have said, like, if you're not making me sex, if you're not giving me sex and you're not giving me sandwiches, then I have no use for you. He should have said that at the beginning. He didn't, though. The problem is he let her get too comfortable in what she was doing. And because she got too comfortable in what she was doing, she just went further and further and further and further to a point where she's messing with all types of guys.
Except him, everyone but him.
Exactly.
And let's see, the thing is, notice this though. He took all of this because in his mind, she was just difficult. She wasn't easy to other guys and difficult to him. Then as soon as he saw that she would be in the car with another dude, he went ahead, drew a line in the sand, he opened up his trunk, took everything out, threw it at her. And she even said, well, I was wondering when he was going to put his foot down instead of letting me walk over him. You see, at the end, it comes down to the fact that he thought she was difficult. He thought she's just not easy. And what you got a lot of men that are actually told this from a young age. Well, women just aren't as easy as we are. And then therefore they really think this way. And so they act accordingly. And that's how you can tell the difference between an actual cuck and a man that's been lied to. Most men that have just been lied to, but they're not weak, they don't tolerate that. They don't tolerate polyandry. They don't tolerate that type of thing where she's got him and then she's got someone else too, because men instinctively understand that two men ain't going to be equal to the same woman and she ain't going to treat them equally. But if a man thinks that this is what every man would get from her, if a man thinks that that's the case, then he's just really not going to know that he's being disrespected. And he's going to think, well, she's just a challenge, and that's what life is like. And that's like the rest of life. Anything good has a challenge surrounding it. That's what because we're trained to think that way. Right. The difference is that you and I know that in actuality, not only do they have needs below the belt, but they have needs below the belt that are about as serious as a man's. They're just more arrogant about it. That's the difference. If someone told this man, if someone said to Deontay at a young age, listen, they're going to play games. They're not this difficult. They're picky and they're arrogant, but they're not really that difficult. They're not unbothered. They get hot and bothered. They just want to chase the same few guys. That's the difference. And if they're not screwing you, they're screwing someone else. Then he would have had a different approach from the very beginning. And he would have even been able to say, wait a minute, you are writing to me as a pen pal from a prison and they got a bunch of women out here in the free world. No, that's okay, because God knows what you're doing in that prison. You're probably screwing a guard. You can't just go without it for 40 years.
Exactly. That exactly right. Like that, God knows what she did in that prison. God really knows like what type of thing she was into in that prison. You never know what she was. Hell, she can have a girlfriend in that prison for all we know.
Exactly.
We don't know. And
exactly.
And the thing is that like this is the whole problem. This is the whole problem with this whole setup that the Western woman has had. Because the thing is, we're not the ones who started it. We're the ones who unfortunately have to finish it. The thing is that everything that this Western woman has decided to conjure up, it goes against the natural nature of a woman. You know what I mean? And they're so far gone and so far warped and can't see that they're so far gone and so far warped that they just dig themselves into bigger holes and bigger holes and bigger holes. I'm very curious to know what are some of the things that those Malian sisters were talking about. I'm very curious to know.
I would love to know. Carlos Red is, and I'll type his name in the chat. Carlos Red is the one that would at least have some idea. And also with somebody that's been on my show, he's been on my live streams before. I think he's been on with you. I put his name in the chat too, J Lion Menelik. Shouts out to both of them. They were on that show. Carlos Red is the one on whose channel it was, and J Lion Menelik joined in the panel. So they would be able to track down this lady at least before I could. And I'll go back and listen again and see what I missed. But at the end of the day, it comes down to the fact that I noticed that these ladies were talking about African American women. They didn't include the Western white woman. I don't think it's because the Western white woman is not a problem. I think it's because these women did not give a rat's behind about white women. They cared about our own people.
Yes. Now that's the question I have though. What compelled this woman to learn like French and get a Senegalese last name, and like what compelled her to do that?
I wish I knew, because these are the same questions I would have for her if I had a chance to meet her. I would
Yes.
ask her the same things to be fair. What compelled you? You're obviously not a stereotypical ratchet. Just give us the rundown. But she did say that she was brought up to not have relationships, that men were trash. She was brought up to believe that men were trash, not trust them, and that what saved her was that she knew her dad was not the way that her family members depicted him to be. So that her dad was okay, her dad was fine, and she knew this. And she figured they just didn't know her dad that well, ironically. But see, that's the thing. In the end, sir, yeah, in the end, they didn't even mention Becky. And they have to know that Becky's a problem, because who the hell else is going to teach Boom Shika Bon Quisha and Sapphire this stuff?
Exactly. They have to know. They have to know.
Yeah.
They have to know.
So that
They have to
means
know.
they got to know. So what this means is they don't care about Becky. They're looking at Becky and saying, well, she's a cave bee anyway. But
Yeah,
what about you?
and they're also looking at Becky and saying to these black women, why are you learning from them? Like, why are you getting your how should we put it? Why are you getting your sunnah from them? You know what I mean? Like, why are you getting your sunnah from these women?
Yes.
You know,
and that's a legitimate question for them to ask. And there is a legitimate answer to that question, a logical answer. We could debate about whether it justifies it or not, but there is a logical answer to the question. And the question is a perfectly legitimate question for them to ask and ponder. Yeah. Back home, they colonized, but they did not outnumber you. In the Caribbean, they colonized and enslaved, but they did not outnumber us.
Yes.
In North America, they colonized the land, they enslaved us, and they outnumbered us. And so therefore, you can see a logical reasoning as to why it is, because when you think about it, when you look back home, you have to tell some sisters to put down the skin bleach.
Exactly. You do. You have to tell them to put down the skin bleach. And you also, like, I didn't want to do it. So I just kept it quiet. But it didn't mean that I conformed and agreed with what she was doing. But I had to like tell a sister that, yo, like, chill out on that transgender and that gay stuff, you know. Mm-hmm. And she was African and she kind of took some offense to it. But I'm just saying, like, I know you're trying to preach this, we are the world and everybody is equal, but you know, it's not gonna like your parents wouldn't like you doing this. You know, I had to like remind her where, like who like was the head honcho when it came down to it, even if she's old enough to make her own decisions.
Yeah. That's, you have to tell, you've had to tell them certain things that they should have known already. You've had to say to them, look, at the end of the day, there's no reason for you to pick up the bleach. We don't necessarily agree with everything that they're doing. But the lesson in all of this is that everybody who is underneath the thumb of that mayonnaise mafia comes out negatively affected. It happens in Indonesia and Malaysia too. One of my subscribers named Art Zuck, and he comes into my lives, and because it helps him it helps him improve his English. I mean, he comes in the comments while I'm live at times. Art Zuck has said that he had to tell his wife, put down the skin bleach.
Yes.
So now this is not Africa. And this is not in the continent itself. We don't imagine them as being black. Sure, black friendly, but we don't know them as being black. Now, you and I, as Muslims, know that the Malaysians and the Indonesians actually are one group that do not treat us black people as inferiors.
True.
We've seen that. We differentiate between we differentiate between them and, let's say, the Chinese and the Koreans. We know
definitely, most definitely.
So we have knowledge of that. I mean, remember when there was anti-Asian hate, we were worried about the Southeast Asians that don't look down on us, especially the ones from the archipelago in the southern Philippines, because we knew they didn't deserve this stuff. But the thing is that even they have had some negative effects from being under the thumb of that mayonnaise mafia. Even China, with all of its power, they've come out of, there's certain bad habits they picked up. And This runaway materialism has become a problem with them. So nobody escapes every negative effect of being under the mayonnaise mafia. We're not, neither the race nor the African American nationality within the race is unique in that regard. The question is going to simply be the degrees. So these ladies from Mali had certain things that they would have had to talk about. The issue here is that when you look at women who are still today going through some, more things than Western women have to go through, they can still respect the men, especially the men that don't mistreat them. Whereas you look at the Western woman, white and black, who are going through less hardship at the hands of their men, and they actually respect least the men that show them the most respect. And when you go to my channel, I put something in the community tab up, and it's a link to a particular, it's one of the Akaro videos, or Arako video. I think his name is Arako TV videos. And in that one, the timestamp starts at 3 minutes and 13 seconds in. And that's where this lady, a mayonnaise mafiosa, Karen's looking at the camera and saying, this man treated me well. He was not a pushover. He had friends. So she already says that the problem is not his inferior status, socially speaking. It's nothing like that. He wasn't on the spectrum, none of these things. He was a normal man who had friends, but he had his life together. And she said she dumped him and went back to her ex, who bought her a $15 gift card.
Another thing too, this is another thing I want to talk about too. It's gotten to a point though, where, and I'm just going to be honest. I'm just going to be completely honest. It's gotten to a point where running into, because unfortunately we're seeing it more often than not. And it's sad. And I'm just going to be real. I'm going to just keep it all the way real, especially here throughout my daily interactions. It's gotten to a point where a majority of African descendant women in this country are overweight, with dogs, and single. Unfortunately, when they see me or anybody like me who is young, and unfortunately I get the racial ambiguous thing, even though I'm dark as hell, like I'm dark brown, but they say, oh, your hair, your pointy nose, and this, that, and the other. But it's gotten to the point with these women and them not taking responsibility for what they decided to be a part of. It's gotten to a point where running into one is almost like stepping on a mine. They will look for the littlest thing to gaslight you, or they will look for the smallest thing to snap at you, even when you're a complete stranger, even when they don't know you from nil. Okay? It can be the most simplest thing, and they will find a way to gaslight and just basically try to bring a rise out of you because of the situation they are in right now, and because they see you that you're not in the same situation. And I think, and I was talking to another African buddy of mine, because me and him just sat down and talked about it, because we're like, man, dude, it seems like these women, man, they just walk around just angry all the time. They walk around angry all the time, and then they take out their anger on us. And this is what he said. And I want your opinion on this. It really and truly. He said, the reason why they're walking around mad, and they're walking around like it's like walking around them, it's like a minefield, is because they know you won't give them the time of day. They know that you have other plans, and that you're not bothered with them. So they try to find a way to get your attention, and sometimes the way to get your attention is by snapping on you. But luckily you don't acknowledge it, and you keep it moving. Now, do you think that's what's going on with these women, with the the bonquishas and stuff like that. Do you think because they are like getting to be like, for example, overweight, they are just walking alone and dying alone with dogs? Do you think that it's gotten to a point where they and have you heard stories that they'll just snap on any random brother they see? Have you heard stories like that?
I haven't heard of them snapping on just any random brother they see, but I know the feeling of being on eggshells with them, especially if the subject of relationships comes up. Now, there are two ways that either you approach them or this is the topic of relationships. I know that feeling of being on eggshells with them. If they think you like them, if they like you, you're on eggshells. So I know that I have experience being on eggshells. As a matter of fact, with the Western sister, that's the only experience I really have. I don't know what it's like to not be on eggshells with an attractive Western woman that's black. I have no clue what that's like. I don't. Matter of fact, most attractive Western women, I don't know what it's like to not be on eggshells with them, but I do know, but not. I don't have that extensive experience. But with attractive Western black women, absolutely not. I don't know what that's like, except in a few cases where they didn't think they were attractive.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Now, and that's the funny thing. When they didn't think they were, then all of a sudden their attitude was different. And so
Oh,
that
okay.
shows you that there's something in the environment that does not allow two things to go together, even though
Yeah.
these two things are necessary, which is
Yeah.
going to be why it is that they're alone. They simply cannot be attractive enough visually and have the attitude that they need to have. That's not our fault. That's their own. That's somebody created the environment. A lot of them were born into it, but they still took on that training. But yes, I don't know anything about them just snapping at brothers at random, brothers they don't know at all. I can't say that I saw it get to that point. Then again, I spent a total of about within the last 7.5 years. I've spent a total of about half a year in the United States. So when I was there, I did not. But what I did see last time was something else.
What did you
Last two
see?
times I was there, I saw sisters, nice to look at too, in
Yeah.
shape, with not just mayonnaise mafioso men, but the type that didn't have any sort of cultural cues that they were raised by us or that they grew up around us. None of
Yeah.
that. I mean, I saw them with not just mayonnaise men, but outright man. And culturally, they were mayonnaise men.
Yes.
And I don't know the income of these men per se, but you could tell these men danced off rhythm. That you
Yes.
could, if they danced at
Yeah.
all, you knew. You knew
Yeah.
these guys did not understand much slang at all, except for what they heard their white friends say, like for sure.
Yeah.
They
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
You knew that. And I knew based on where I saw them what type of mayonnaise mafioso men these guys were.
Yeah.
So when I saw that, of course, I thought, well, see, in my last two times in 2019 and then this summer 2021, when I saw that, that's when I said it's official now. The Western sister is a hypocrite,
Yes.
guaranteed. Because see,
Yeah.
they come at you about this racial ambiguity.
Yeah.
They've they've they didn't tell me about it until one really sat me down and explained it, but three of them
Yeah.
confirmed it, so to speak. Three together
Yeah.
really told me. But I mean, I was 24 before someone really even mentioned to me that that's why I was expected to settle for less than what other brothers in my situation would have had to
Yeah.
settle for.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in your case, you came up in a different time. They told you about it. So what they
Yeah.
showed me, they told you. But what about when he's actually from Europe 100%? There's no ambiguity. He's the grandson of the oppressor. Then what?
Yeah.
And that's when I said that's it, the hypocrites.
Yeah.
And that's part of why I'm gonna tell black men when the next time I go live, that's part of why I'm gonna say to black men what I've been saying. Don't approach them. And I'm gonna let sisters come on and try to logically state a reason that brothers should still approach sisters, Western sisters, and in the
There is
West.
no reason. There is no reason. There is no reason. Um, I it happened today, but I ignored her. I ignored her completely with yes or no answers. Um, I had I was shipping some things to the Caribbean, and I had to like get them ready. I had to get them ready. I had to load them up and things like that before I shipped them. Um, this Western sister was like, "You need help?" I'm like, "No, I'm good." I just said it that quickly. Yet she still tried her best to like make small talk and stuff like that. Everything was yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yeah, I kept it like that because I'm not going to fall into the trap with them. Because the
And
simple fact is, you can't show vulnerability with them, unfortunately, because they will prey on that, and then there you'll be. So I've taken heed, and I don't approach them at all. No matter if they're Asian, no matter if they're Latin, whatever they are. In this country, I don't approach them because I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna tell you something honestly. Usually, women from other cultures, if they like you, they're gonna find a way to talk to you. And then once they talk to you, you'll hear their accent, and you'll be like, okay, she's definitely not from here. And then that's when it becomes, okay, where are you from? This, that, and the other. That's how it happened with the Azerbaijan woman.
okay, the Azerbaijani woman.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
It happened the exact same way. She had no qualms, no hesitation about asking anything. And then I'm like, okay, she has an accent. Obviously, she's not from here. But when it comes to the Western woman, it's like a no-go zone. You shouldn't even bother with them at all. So that's why, like, yes, I understand that dudes have natural urges. I understand we're gonna want women. That's something you can't take away. But I find that if you keep your mind off of them more and more, and keep your mind on what you want to do and things that you are aspiring to do, then it lessens the blow. That's what I figure.
It does. And there's also fasting. Another thing too is that looking at photos of the symptoms of STDs does it. My former student did that when I was on the phone with him. I told him look up symptoms of STDs, look up the images. He said he's going to do that again next week because he's going to be good for an entire week. So there are things that actually do. There are things that do this. And the thing is that once you've things that lower the libido, and once you've done that consistently for a length of time, you actually begin to value yourself more. Because see, men are taught sexually not to value ourselves, maybe in other ways, sure, but not sexually. We're taught that we carry a negative value and she carries a positive value, and that makes sex a value loaded transaction. And in fact, that's not the way it is. Because as you said, yeah, you got the urges, but see, what about theirs? They got them too. That lady came out to prison on that show Life After Lockup. I forgot her name, but the one that was with Deontay. Well, I mean, she had urges. She had to have had urges. And we know because she was going and seeing that ex of hers. So at the end of the day, I mean, you look at how they are in the prisons, really. You look at the way the ladies are in the prisons. I saw an interview in which some ladies talked about how they got down with each other in the prisons. Because here's the funny thing. That means that quiet is kept, even though they got access to the guards. Most male guards aren't willing to do stuff like that. That's what that means to me.
Yes, exactly.
So that means that the male guards that are willing to engage with them are actually rare opportunities. Thus, they're still, with each other. But when they get with each other, all that foreplay that they ask for on the outside from a male, they skip when on the inside with a woman.
Not only that, here's the thing. I'm not trying to, I'm trying to keep it like as PG as possible.
Naturally.
When inside, you have to ask yourself, okay, how are they going to please themselves? How are they going to really get off? And the only way that you can really think about it is through a helping hand, meaning a toy of some sort. So if they keep on doing that, once they get a real man, then I don't think that real man really stands a chance or holds any weight. when it comes to like trying to please them, because they've already used that thing time and time again, you know. And I don't know how true it is, but I hear when you use those toys, like the real thing starts to feel like nothing. I don't know how true that is, though.
It may depend on which one it is because they have a variety of them.
Yeah.
But now I'm pretty sure that those are not easy to smuggle into the prison. I mean, the ones that would really do some damage are probably more difficult. It's not like a pack of cigarettes that you can just stuff in your pocket. But there was something, I saw these jokes about it on Facebook several months ago, something called the Rose. And in one video, this man walked in and some lady was asleep in the bed. I don't know if it was his wife, girlfriend, or what, but she was fast asleep, and there was a rose on the nightstand. So what that showed me was the relative size of that rose, because I had her head above the covers and the nightstand to compare it to. You see?
Yeah.
These are the things that maybe they could, in fact, smuggle in. And so I guess it depends on what it is that they use that really desensitizes them to a guy. And the ones that would really do that, they seem to be the most difficult to smuggle in. But I've never been to prison, and God forbid that I ever have to go.
Exactly.
So let alone a ladies' prison. But in the end, what it comes down to is simply that they just value us the least. Because if you can't really find any other justifying explanation or real explanation as to all of these constant patterns we see. They're easy to each other. They're easy when it comes to I mean, they buy the toys themselves. These things cost money. They ain't free. They go and pay for them. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yes,
right.
They do.
They pay. I'm sure that a lot of them click and get the expedited shipping too when they buy these things if they're gonna order them online. Some of them, when I lived in Atlanta, you could see some of them ducking in and out of the 9.5 week stores, because there was one in between my house and my job, and I would see it in the daytime and at night. I'd see women ducking in and out. And so I was married actually. One time I decided that I was going to go and buy some regular run-of-the-mill birth control as a husband, and I wasn't going to let my wife go to the pharmacy. So I ducked into the 9.5 weeks. And for those of you in Atlanta, I'm talking about the one that's on Northside Avenue. I ducked in there because it was around the corner from both where I worked and where I lived. So I went in, get birth control, because that's at the front of those stores. It's not where all the other stuff is. But I went in because I knew that they must have security cameras, and they were probably going to be at the front. Sure enough, I went in, bought it. Security camera was at the front where the cashier was. And I could see on the security camera, these sisters, they were in the back, but the camera was on them, and they were putting batteries in to try these things out. And this was just before I became red pill aware, but I knew something was off at this point about the way things went down between men and women. Plus,
and to piggyback off of this, what you're saying about something that is off with men and women, let me tell you something that I've been seeing more of as well over here. So, like, sometimes you go to a liquor store, like you want to just get something to drink, you want to buy a snack or something like that. What I've been seeing more of is guys in their being 18, being 19, being 20, buying what they call the rhino pills, and they buy the rhino pills for a harder erection. But I just asked myself, okay, you're so young to be having to buy these things. Like, why are you buying them? You know what I mean? They're between like 18, 19, 20 buying these pills. You know, as I said, one of the most popular ones is the rhino. And it goes back to the simple fact that, again, these women, like, because here's the thing, you know, the women at first presented an image about like being romantic and making love and whatnot. But really, in reality, the Western woman wants you to basically blow her back out and like basically do it in a way like she stole something. So that's why I think these dudes use those pills. even at a young age, because of the savageness of the Western woman, because of her sexual appetite. You know what I mean?
Yeah, more so the savagery, because honestly, the sexual appetite doesn't have to be so hostile as what we see.
Yes,
But
yes, yes.
but then you see that there's that you see a savagery with it, and at the end of the day, that's really what motivates them more than just the actual sexual appetite. It's the savagery.
Yeah,
They're still looking to somehow weaponize even that against you. So
yeah,
when it comes down to it, you see these men trying to buy something so they can satisfy these ladies.
yeah,
And there could be several reasons. One, maybe they're normal on the outside, but women don't want normal. Because they're looking to eliminate, and
yeah,
they eliminate normal men. Also, additionally, men have already been known to produce less testosterone in recent decades than previously at the same ages,
yeah,
and part of
yeah,
that has to do, part of that has to do with the fact that most men are facing constant rejection, and
yeah,
rejection is not going to give you an increase in testosterone. Now, you
yeah.
face it again and again and again, then you're just going to have even more and more reduced testosterone. Women have a right to
Mhm.
turn down what they don't want, but we know that they're turning down even what they do want because they're in this intense competition with each other. So men have several things that are pushing down these testosterone levels anyway.
Yeah.
And so it's only a matter of time before maybe not the 19 and 20-year-olds, but they may be buying it just because they got to be above average. But
Mhm.
it's only going to be a matter of time before you got these guys that get to a point where they don't care anymore. They've been
Yeah.
single for so long, they've been turned away. And you and I both know with Western women, especially the cute ones, they'll reject you when you're not even shooting your shot. We've seen this happen, and some of us have
Yeah.
been through it. So
Yeah.
that means you don't even have to stick your neck out to be told no. You could just be in her proximity and you're being polite. And they make it plain that they've got a boyfriend. Yeah, that's good. Okay, congratulations. They do that. They got all these barriers up. Well, you see these
Mhm.
barriers, and after a while, I mean, you're going to adapt to that situation. So, what is the best adaptation? Lower your testosterone because it's not needed anymore. It becomes problematic at a high level
Yeah.
in a society like this anyway. Because
Yeah.
with testosterone may come upper body strength, but also with that comes a libido. So you get more
Yeah.
testosterone. They just come to you to ask you to help them move heavy stuff, but they don't want to take care of the libido even in a marriage. So you don't need the testosterone, therefore you produce less of it.
Yeah.
And so that actually makes sense that you would see that. But you still see these guys trying to find something to be able to satisfy these women. What you see
Yeah.
women doing is going and paying money, good money. And when I ducked in and get that birth control that time,
Yeah.
I asked how much of those things that they're experimenting with. And he looked
Right.
at me like he looked at me and said, "Oh," as if to think maybe I was in the dudes. I was like, "Oh no, 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 no! I want to know why it is that we can't sell ours, the real thing, and you can, and the fake one will sell." And
Yeah.
he nodded his head like, "Oh yeah, good point." And he said, "You know what? They are expensive." Now looking back on it, I may have red pilled that man and not even meant to. But he
Yeah.
said, yeah, they're expensive. And he said they start at 150, some of them are 250 if they take batteries. And I was like, oh wow. And they can't return these things, I'm pretty sure. How you gonna
No,
give
no,
back the
no,
used?
definitely. Definitely. They definitely wouldn't be able to return these.
Okay, so that means that they are committing to a 150 and above purchase for a fake. But the real deal has no value to them. Stop and think about that. That can't possibly be true. The fake is an imitation of what Allah done already put on us. They
Yeah.
simply don't value us. This is
It's
hatred,
true.
man. And that's what we gotta understand. It's
Well,
disdain.
and here's another thing. And here's another thing too that they don't get. They don't get this. Marriage favors both of us in a way, like like there's favor in both sides in the marriage, right?
Yes.
But if you're married and you're not pleasing your husband, then and this is from our tradition, then the angels pray against you. If you're married and you don't make yourself available to your husband to get your back blown out, then the angels are going to be against you unless there's a valid reason. for that not to happen. But according to the laws of fiqh, in the Maliki school, you have to be available to your husband for that. Like, yeah, you have to be available.
Yep.
And so when a woman, and that's another thing that these Western women do, they withhold sex from you when you're married, even. They withhold it. And they know that that's one of the reasons why you got married is okay, now I can like be good. I don't have to go out chasing no tail. I got the tail right here. But once you get married, they withhold it from you. They give it out sparingly, unfortunately. Very few cases.
Yes, they give it out sparingly, and they are pushing husbands away. Ironically, they know that they've set the environment, or that their mothers created the environment in which they today could do something like that. And so that's part of why it is that we're just going to have to sit up and stop making these approaches. We, as I've said, we simply made this too easy, and we should not have done that. But you see, even in the Discord server, I won't say exactly which one or which room, but in one of the rooms of a Discord server, I pointed out how it is that men had made this sort of stuff too easy, and that we were paying the price for that. And somebody, as a matter of fact, I might be able to find exactly what it was I said. Let's see, news. Yep, it's coming up. There it is. All right. So what I said was that that men are going to have to be as difficult as women are. And this means having no respect for women's preferences like they have none with ours, that men with standards are going to have to be lauded instead of being called GAY, and that women with standards are going to have to be left single until they drop them standards. Because this is not just a game or a conflict, it's an outright war. They're fighting to genetically eliminate most men while still using us for the resources. And somebody wrote back to me and said, it won't happen. Peace leaves power in the age of Aquarius. And you'll more readily get your cap pushed back by a dude hoping to get it before you than to find somebody that's going to practice that mentality. And so my reply was that he's correct as to how it is, but that I'm correct as to how it can be. We men think that we can't do this, but the fact is it's already being done. You got women that are looking into cameras with no disguises on their faces, not even filters. They're looking into their phone cameras. I don't know how many videos I've seen of this now, but they're looking into their phone cameras and complaining because nobody is approaching them. Stop and think about that. They're not hiding themselves. They're camming up, looking in the camera, putting it on TikTok and wherever else.
It's happening. It's happening. It is. The thing is, this is what happened too. And actually, black dudes dodged the bullet. There was this one woman, this one black woman. It happened a while ago, but she was crying that no black dudes approached her in the club. And I think no dudes in general approached her in the club. But little did we know that she actually had a mulatto son. That the baby daddy was a Polish dude. So while she was crying about not being approached, actually the ones who didn't approach actually dodged a bullet. Because let's be honest, they're not going to have full say-so over that kid, period.
No. Even the father will not have that, so we certainly won't. You're right.
So her tears don't mean anything at this point. That's the bed she made. And on top of that, unfortunately, I hate to say this, well, unfortunately, the baby was made out of drunken sex. It wasn't even sober sex. It was drunken sex.
Okay. So that baby was conceived amidst a high blood alcohol level.
Yes. Okay. So that just goes to show you there's no reason to have tears for her.
No, none. That's exactly what needs to happen. I mean, what she's facing is exactly what the bulk of them need to face. We just need to step it up and have more of us start doing that. We already have the capacity. I mean, for one, we have lower testosterone, so that means that we have lower libidos, and that's a good thing. So, because I mean, that's a forced reaction to the society. It's a forced adaptation we have to have in the society.
Yeah.
So we simply need to learn to weaponize that too, and we need to make this something that they face collectively, where they have to sit back, not because I hate them, but
no, because it's not because you hate them. It's because this is the bed they laid, and so we you know, because it's the bed they laid, we unfortunately have to pull out the blankets and let them know, okay, this is what you guys wanted. But in reality, or this is what you guys thought you wanted, but the reality is this is not really what you wanted because it goes against your human nature. But because you thought you wanted it, you got it. You know what I mean? You got what you got what you were looking for. I'll give you another example. I'll give you an example. Like me and my coach were no nonsense. He tells me what I need to do, and I do what I need to do. However, sometimes people come into the boxing gym, women included, and all the guys are giving them attention because they're used to that. I don't give them any attention at all. I'm there for a different purpose. You know what I mean? Because of that, they can't help it and they can't stand it that you're not giving them attention. But it gets to a point where you can actually see them trying to run into you or them trying to like do things to like be in your vision. But I hold my square down because I understand that by starving them of this, it messes with their head. It actually does something to their head, literally, by not approaching them. It does something to their head. Because what happens is they think, oh man, he's not approaching me. That means I may not be pretty enough. So you're right. The best thing to do is not approach them at all.
That's it is necessary, and hopefully when you do this, hopefully you have enough support from other men, because although the necessity is not just based on my hatred, it's based on one, a natural consequence that they're going to have to learn in order for us to be dealing with adults, and two, the other reason is that when you look at the kids today, neither do the little boys nor the little girls deserve to inherit this. I don't know how else to say it, but this shit show that we have. We inherited this from our elders.
They don't. They don't deserve it. They absolutely do not deserve it. They don't.
And so, and you know, 20 years ago, you were at the age at which you were innocent and you had nothing to do with creating this, and you shouldn't have had to come into it. So someone's got to break the cycle and not perpetuate it and hand it down to the next age group. I won't necessarily say generation, but even the next age group, like younger siblings, as opposed to those young enough to be your kids. We got to stop even so much as doing that. We got to stop perpetuating that. So if enough men support you in it, then we could break that cycle. But the main reason, the most compelling reason, is that these young ones don't deserve the scenario. These young girls don't deserve to be lied to and told they can get away with murder and that it's not really murder and that's just how things are. And these young boys deserve to not be taught to be food and the targets of this type of murder. And it is okay for people to get away with them, to get away with murdering them, so to speak. I mean, you know, romantically and maritally murdering them. These aren't things that either of them deserve to, these are lies neither of them deserve to have told to them, nor the results of these lies. And the other thing too is that we're dealing with, in the West, we're dealing with a scenario in which if you decide you were going to be with a Western woman or you were stuck with them, you actually have no adults you can choose from because they never have to become adult women, psychologically speaking.
That's true. That's true.
They've been able to be kids. So while they're sitting up and saying that they don't respect men that like younger women because they say that's creepy and it's pedo-ish, and while they're saying that, they sit up and mentally as long as they have not hit the wall, as long as they are fertile, actually, they have never been forced to actually be adults. So we're seeing a scenario in the West where they have to be post wall. They don't just have to hit the wall. They got to hit the wall, keep on falling past the wall, regain their senses. Like in a car accident, you're dazed and you keep on rolling and stuff. So, you know, you're by the time you realize you had a crash, you're several feet away from the crash site itself, the site of impact, because you're dazed. That's what they're like. They hit the wall, they roll past it. Then when they stop and they're stunned, when they get over being stunned, then they grow the hell up. But when they're fertile, they're not adults. And in other situations, we know that they have to be adults when they're fertile, and that's when they're young. So you have a scenario in which you have to be mentally, physically, and spiritually an adult, and they only have to be physically an adult, and everything else they get to be a child. And you really don't have any other choice. You don't have any better options to make in the West. That's why Deontay tolerated what he tolerated from that ex-convict chick coming out that prison. That literally was a normal option to him. He inherited this from my age group. And so he grew up with this stuff where dudes, he grew up with the results of, young man, you take what you can get, you don't never turn none down, and then telling a woman all of them out for one thing and don't give it up easy. He grew up with the results of that. We're just seeing it on TV. Deontay is very typical. He's not abnormal. And that lady was very typical.
No,
that's what that was.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the thing is, this is the whole thing about the whole situation, about the approaching and stuff like that, is that when you do starve them of approaches and things like that, then they start to ask themselves, as I say, it just does something to their brain. Because the simple fact is, if you go cold turkey on approaching them, then you're not going to be able to gas up their ego, because chances are they only want you to approach them so they can reject you. And so they can tell their friends, hey, you know, girl, this dude tried to come up to me, but, you know, I had to shut him down real quick. You know how it go.
Exactly.
That's really what it comes down to as well. And back to your point, though. Back to your point. It is okay for an older dude to get a younger woman. That's completely okay. There's no problem in it. The problem is when these other women sham a woman for doing that. The thing is, those women are your competition. Do you think they want to see you happy? Do you think they want to see you married? Do you think they want to see you taken care of? Or do you think they would rather be in that position, but they're big Shirleys whose only opportunity basically is really like a needle in the ocean, and they're single with walking their dogs?
Because it is a competition, you know, most of them don't want to see somebody else happy when they're not. As much as a married lady might say, I'm not going to keep friends with single women, at the end of the day, when they're single, they do not necessarily want to see someone else happily married. So therefore, yeah, you're right. It is a competition, and it is a competition to get the most out of men while giving the least in exchange, except with the exceptions being the few men that all of them want. So it's a competition for the same few men. That's true. But outside of that same few men, the competition becomes to take as many resources in exchange for as little validation as possible, be it above the belt or below the belt. Just as little validation as possible. So they're not just bragging about how who they've turned down. It's not just that. They're also bragging about what they're getting out of him and what they're not giving to him.
Yes.
So, and I mean, they'll sit up and say, they're not just bragging about how they're not giving them no drawers. They'll even brag about how they don't know how to cook. So they can't.
No. Unfortunately, I've heard and you know, I don't want to slander a sister. I don't want to slander a sister, but obviously she bought into the feminism thing. But one Muslim woman said that, you know, who was from here, she said, I don't expect to cook or clean in a marriage. I was about to say I was going to say under my breath, but I didn't say it. Then don't expect to get married then if you're not going to do that. You know, I guess she
Yeah.
was happy. I guess she was happy or proud to have that badge on for some reason, not cooking or cleaning. I guess that was a
Uh,
badge of honor, a badge of honor for her.
yeah, it exactly was. It absolutely was a badge of honor because we have to remember we're just now coming out of the age in which they could brag about that and still get a husband. I
Okay.
mean, you know, a few days ago, I'm sorry, a few years ago, they could brag about this, and there were enough men that would say, "Yeah, but I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for an equal partner," because we believe that stuff. You see,
Yeah.
that was just a few years ago. Now you have more and more men saying, "No, see, you're telling a lie because there is no equal partnership. We already know there's not because when somebody breaks in the house, I'm the one that's got to go and deal with it."
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so all the dangerous and all the heavy lifting and all the danger is on me to face. Therefore, this is not an equal partnership. You get to hide behind me. I don't get to hide behind you. So it's not equal. Therefore, don't come at me with that stuff. If I have to be the breadwinner, you're going to do the cooking and cleaning. Oh, and speaking of which, that reminds me about something. In actuality, when black women do get married, they're the least likely to be the breadwinners of the family, statistically speaking. The
Hmm.
percentage of white wives, not white women, but the percentage of white wives that are breadwinners outweighs the percentage of Hispanics, the Hispanic wives that are breadwinners, and the percentage of Hispanic wives that are breadwinners outweigh the percentage of black wives that are breadwinners. Most black
Hmm.
women will not marry in a position in which they're the breadwinner. And breadwinner, I think, was defined, if I'm not mistaken, in this study, it was defined as the one that earns just more than the other spouse.
Yeah.
So if you take simply that, it doesn't matter where you define breadwinner. If it's just earning more than the other spouse, or if it's actually
Yeah.
paying bills, however you define it, sisters already don't marry when they have to be the breadwinner. They're
Yeah. You're
usually
right.
breadwinners when they're by themselves. That's the thing
Yeah.
about it. And so, in a nutshell, we're seeing that they're willing to be breadwinners for Brad and
Yeah.
Chad,
True.
you know, for
True.
Cave Thug, um, uh, let's see, Corpse and Casper. Who else?
Yeah. Yeah. No. No. True. True.
Yeah,
But guess what? The guy who is actually working towards something and the work is being done, it's not just based on potential, but he's actually working on something, working towards something bigger. Then, like 5 years later, 3 years later, that same girl who is the breadwinner, who now you have more bread than, you know, because you worked yourself up, you did what you needed to do. That same girl now is now talking about, hey, you know, we should catch up sometime. Hey, you know, we should link up sometime. Hey, how you been doing? But you're already past her. You've already passed that stage, you know?
yeah. You know what? If a lady meets up with you later on, she bumps into you later and says, "Let's catch up." In all
Yeah.
honesty, the best thing for a man to do in this case, because a lot of these ladies don't, they're just now becoming aware, but it's too slow a process.
Hmm.
They're too slowly becoming aware of what we're realizing. Best thing for that man to do is to go ahead and be willing to meet up somewhere public at like a coffee shop where everybody, um, you're not really that alone, so to speak,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
then just to catch up, and then when she tries to proceed forward, you say, "Oh, wait, we friends? Yeah, I got your back. Yeah, you friend zone her." Now we know they don't handle it well when they're friend zoned, but
Yes.
they're going to challenge you on that, and you use that challenge to say, "You know what? By this time, the man should already have certain links in his phone." And he says, "You know what? Let me send you this. Check your phone. Pull your phone out, ma'am. All right, I'm sending this link to you. Send a link to her.
Yeah.
Let her open up the video. Some videos where we're having conversations like this. or just short videos like Araco TV. He has some short ones, and just let her look at some of these and say, listen, everything that you don't want us to know about women, we already know.
Yes.
It's getting out. The secrets are out.
Yes. Yes. You know what's crazy about this? You know what's crazy about this?
What's that?
There was actually, and the thing is, her friend contacted me afterward. But there was this one woman, okay, she was Cape Verdean, and she was playing games. All of a sudden she DMs me saying, I miss what we had. I miss the friendship we had. But I kept on answering in like vague terms and like just one word answers. It got to a point. Where she said something. She's like, don't leave me on read. So I said, woman, I'm doing something right now. And so I blocked her. I had no issues blocking her, but she was so surprised that I blocked her, like just all of a sudden, like without any hesitation, that she told her friend that I blocked her. Her friend then told me that, hey, what did you do to her? This, that, and the other. And I said, I simply blocked her because I don't have time for her crap. You know what I mean? So it actually surprises a woman when a guy does take charge and says, I'm not going to give you that control. You know what I mean? I'm not going to give you that. I'm not going to when you take back your power and you stick your chest out, they actually don't know what to do. It frizzles their head,
Mm-hmm.
And that goes to your point. That when you friend zone them, when you're the one who friend zoned them, they're caught off guard that you're actually doing that.
Yeah, it does catch them off guard that you can friend zone them, that you can block them, that all of a sudden there's this loss in value. And you see, when young men learn this, because it's so rare, young men who learn this ahead of time actually are called GAY, because I think that women actually believe what they're saying when they say this about these guys at young ages. I mean, if you got a guy in his 20s and he can do this to ladies, even when they're nice to look at, and these ladies start saying, well, he's GAY, I think that these women actually believe that such a guy is like that he doesn't really care about women anyway, because they don't see it much. But that's part of why it is we got to step this thing up. And not so much for us, but for these young, not even just for the younger guys that are still boys now and will become adults later, but even for the girls that don't deserve this stuff. They have to see they have to see their older sisters and cousins go through what you and I are seeing these older women go through right now. See, you and I are looking at these women in their 30s and above, and they're going through this. What the young girls need to see is their sisters at age 18 go through this and hit these brick walls. That's what they need to see. Either she acts right, or 18, she is done. She's toast. She gets to be an incel. It's not vengeance, but it's not so much about vengeance, but it's just it's the same reason that you and I know that a thief who actually steals enough from people has to have his hand cut off, and publicly. And the shorty, the reason for that is, I mean, of course, you can't just steal a chicken because you're hungry and lose your hand. There is a process. I get it. But when the criteria and the thresholds are met, we know why they have to get the hand cut off and publicly. It's so that other people stop stealing, and people who are thinking of stealing don't do it. Same thing for the murderers and the rapists and the fornicators, and especially the adulterers, the ones that were married when they did it. The penalties are what they are, and the public, so that people will stop doing what people who are doing it will quit. Preventative measures. There has to be a consequence in order for people to not do, in order for an offense to be rarely committed, the consequence has got to be serious and it's got to be public. And it's the same thing with this. Even these young girls that ain't guilty yet are going to become such if they can sit up and watch their older sisters and cousins and aunts, let alone their moms, get away with this stuff. So
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
we gotta start friend zoning them. I mean, quit approaching them. Start friend zoning them when they do the approaches. Let them know that we know what the games are, and say to you, you got to show them when they come at you like this. You got to sit down at the coffee shop like what I was saying, and then show them these links when that time comes up, and say to them, it's not just me that knows this. Let them
Exactly.
know. I'm not the only man that knows this. This is open. This is on YouTube and Vimeo and whatever else. The secret is out.
Yes.
So you come to us with our interest and you fuck the shuck up about all the other stuff. Don't talk about you got a headache when we get home.
Yeah.
Either you're going to work for the extra money you want or you live within my means. You're not going to bother me
Exactly.
about what we don't have. You're not going to tell me to move my hand so you can photograph this dinner that we went out to eat and put it on Snapchat. No, I paid the bill. I'm putting my damn hand in the picture. Fit the
Yeah.
duck out my face
Exactly.
with that.
Exactly.
Stuff like
Exactly.
that. All of that
Exactly.
stuff.
Exactly.
And
And here's the thing too. Us men, we're not really hard to please. We don't really ask for much, you know.
nope.
Like mostly what we ask for is like peace, and sex, and just like like food. That's mostly what we ask for. You know what I mean? We don't really ask for much, but they act like we do. When as a matter of fact, they ask for 100 times more than we ask for. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's just the reality.
Right. And they ask for that because they haven't had to go without. They haven't had to go without
Exactly.
the things that they start off asking for at a young age. And a lot of this
Exactly.
does have to do with two things. One extreme is the overly indulgent girl dad, and the other extreme is the absent girl dad. Now,
Yes.
if the man knows that he has kids, because there are a lot of guys that don't even know. Dr. Tiasan
Mhm.
Johnson, shout out to him, pointed this out before. But if a man knows he's got kids, chances are he's trying to be involved in these kids' lives. I mean, even Future doesn't cut his kids off. Even he doesn't just close the door. He's busy. He's got a lot of them, but he doesn't close the door to his kids. It's not that. So generally speaking, what I'm getting at is that even the absent dads could be the dad's fault. More than likely, we know nowadays it's more likely to be mom, or he doesn't know he's got kids. But in the nutshell, you've got these two extremes. And of course, the absent dad, I mean, we've already talked about that. He's been talked about ad nauseum. He's been blamed for things that ain't even his fault. But what about the overly indulgent girl dad?
Yeah,
They're not
that's true.
saying to their daughters, listen, this is what we men have and what we don't have. We're not gods, we're men.
Yeah.
And when you get older, you don't have to tolerate this, but he ain't got to tolerate this, and don't forget that. And this is
Yeah.
not something that they're being told. Whereas boys are being told, boy, you better get what you can. They ain't gonna come to you. They ain't gonna fall out the sky. They ain't gonna fall in your lap. Everything you want in life, you got to go out and get. And then
Yeah.
we just understand that actually even includes the women that already like, not women, but the woman that already likes you. You got to go out and somehow get her. So the thing is,
True.
we've starting with the girl dads, we've not deprived these women of what it is that they want, or deprived them of anything, I should say. We've not
Hmm.
deprived them proportional to how they insist on depriving us, and so therefore they've never faced a situation in which they've had to go without. Therefore, they're going to ask for the world. We
Yeah.
are easy to please, and that's not a wrong thing. But we sat up and watched them be too difficult to please, and we never checked them on it.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. That's it. Like that's it in a nutshell. Um, but this was a great top. We always talk about great topics and stuff, and we just got to make it more aware. I'm gonna shut it down, but I was just wondering, when are you going live again so I can like just drop in?
I don't know exactly, but when I do, I'm going to post a notice several hours before. I'm going to schedule it
Okay.
several hours before so that the notifications go out.
Okay.
Now it is, let's see, you're in California, so I
Yeah.
take it that it's just midnight over there, right?
It's 1 o'clock right now.
All right, okay then. So 1 a.m. So Saturday just began for you all. The
Yes.
most likely time I would do it would probably be Sunday afternoon, my time, which would be Sunday morning, you all's time. That's the most likely scenario.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Inshallah, I'm gonna be able to tune in and like do this. But you know, I want to say one more thing about it.
yes.
When you go cold turkey, when you go cold turkey from these females, you always do got to stay on your square because they will fault you for it and they will make you think that, like, in fact, they will put their fears, which they're living their fears on you. They'll say that you're gonna die alone, this, that, and the other. But really, that's the farthest thing from the truth. They reflect their fears on you. But one thing I want to say is there are physical benefits that come from not that come from not approaching, that come from not giving your energy away to them. There's a lot of physical benefits that come with that, but some people, I don't know, maybe don't see those physical benefits. You know what I mean?
Well, health-wise, the optimal situation is to be married and disease-free. Nothing would
Exactly.
beat it, but it's probably healthier, given a choice between sex and celibacy. Sex may be healthier without the diseases. The problem is that
Yeah.
they're going to bring diseases into the picture. So
And
really
that's
the
the
best.
problem. And that's the issue, is that it just becomes your turn after she's done with the cock carousel. It's just
Mhm.
that you get a turn on the cock carousel, basically.
Yeah, yeah, you're one of
And
the
that's
many
the
rides
issue.
on that. You're one of the many rides on that particular carousel. But
Yeah.
um, it's really just the absence of the diseases. I mean, most of the benefits, because celibacy itself isn't really healthy, but
Nah.
it's something that I would say abstinence, which is the temporary version of celibacy, is just a necessity. But we have to
Yeah, but
understand
and to your point, the ideal situation would be to be married and have a family. But
yeah,
that ideal situation exists few and far between, especially here. Because in my last video, this woman got divorced 3 times, and she probably took everything those guys had, and she had no qualms about it. There's a one woman who has 6 different kids from 6 different fathers. So that's the problem. The ideal situation is really few and far between here.
hmm
You can get the ideal situation in other places, but again, you'll have to sacrifice to get to those other places.
yeah. And well, see, look at this lady this lady you just now mentioned. She's taken all this from taking everything from these men and doesn't think anything of it. 6 baby daddies.
Yeah,
You see, I understand that for many men, just not approaching it seems to be difficult because the genders are naturally drawn to each other from a
yeah,
fairly young age. That, naturally speaking, that is very true. But what men have to remember is that number one, it's easier for us than it was for the men in previous generations because the women have created an environment that forces us to produce less testosterone to adapt.
yes,
And the male legislators and girl dads have helped with this creating this environment.
yeah,
Secondly, it's not easy for these ladies either. They just have never had to make an approach. They will try to
yeah,
figure out how to do so if that's what it takes.
yeah,
Because we have to remember that they're the ones. It gets worse for them than it does for us.
yes, yes, yes. It
Yeah.
does. It does.
And the other thing too is that, see, we are visual creatures. It's very true. Well, if you're sitting up by yourself and you start thinking, okay, imagine if every time somebody had a moment of weakness and typed in a porn search, what came up were photographs of the symptoms of STDs and the disfiguration that comes with them when they're not treated. If those were the things that came up, that would further ruin the libido. And as a matter of fact, it will make it more difficult for women to turn a guy on later on, which would be okay because it has to be. It's going to have to balance out at this point. It's sad that it got this far, but now that's necessary. So men can do it. It's like anything else. It takes practice. But see, the other thing too is that we start our lives off alone. And because of how difficult it is on men and not on women, many men wind up being alone anyway. They're just afraid that if someone were to make a pass at them, they wouldn't be able to turn it down. But in reality, men are better at this than what we think we are. And it's getting easier anyway. We're just not aware of this. We've been taught that we can't do that. No, we can, and we're doing it. And more men are doing it, and it's going to get easier. And pretty soon, the only thing that's going to really make men slide off that path at times or backslide sometimes will be when they're getting approached, because it's already to that point. Most men only backslide off of that when someone comes and approaches them. But when they start getting options because they're approached more, because that's what it's going to take for women to get anyone at all, then they can sit back and do the choosing. We actually can reverse a lot of the stuff. Not overnight, but we could do it. It's already happening in a matter of years. Men just are trained to overestimate the difficulty of it by thinking that it's unnatural. But it ain't always like that. And it is as non-biological as it sounds, or as against biology as it sounds, the fact remains that we still are more in control of biology than what we think. We're editing DNA already, so we can do this.
Yes, and it's sad that we have to do it, but at the same time, it's necessary to do it, because you have to ask yourself, what's the greater evil? Is the greater evil you being cold Turk, or is the greater evil a Karen, a Bonquisha, or a Shaniqua using a child as collateral damage over your head because you couldn't do it?
Yep. Well, exactly what we got now. Believe me, turning them down and not making them, well, I would say not making approaches, turning most of them down, and friend zoning many of them. That would actually be far better than the situation we got now. That is very true. Very much so true. When they understand that they have to submit to, and when they realize that they don't get to just sit back and make terms and make choices, it does bring them to heel. And the other thing too is that they have to see that we're still willing to make approaches to traditional ladies in traditional environments that fuck the shuck up and do what we tell them when we tell them, as long as we're willing to pay the cost to be the boss.
Yeah,
they have to see that it's them not being approached, and we'll turn around and go abroad and approach someone from, i.e., Guinea-Bissau, the Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia. That we'll go, like you said, go somewhere, check with the imams and say, look, who's been asking you for a husband? Who's single? But we just won't do that with them. They got to see that, because that's how they think themselves. They themselves have a mindset that if we don't see them doing this, they're never going to teach us a lesson.
Yes.
So, they're seeing, they know what they're doing when they act like they're thoughts and sluts, just not with you. Even though they're doing this to most men, they're still convincing every man that they're loose, just not with that particular man. That's how they act. And some of them actually will sit up and say, well, I got a 100 body count, but you just not going to be one of them. But you just ain't going to be one. They love to do that, because what they're saying is, what they're trying to get you to understand, they're trying to get you and me and a whole bunch of other men, ironically, to think that each one of us is the only one that's not going to get what we want out of them. That's the way they think, so that has to be flipped back on them. Okay, well, let's take the things you want. The Johnson, of course, but you're not going to admit that's what you want. But let's take the stability, these resources, you not having to be a breadwinner, you getting to rest at home as long as it's clean. You just take that sort of thing, at least that simplicity. I'm not going to offer this to you, but I'll go to any other traditional country and offer this to all these other women, just not you.
Yes.
Because that's what drives the message home, because that's based on the way they think. That's the only way they would learn the lesson. And again, it ain't so that they would learn it. It's not really about them learning it. They're not going to. It's about their sisters being able to observe them going through these consequences before their sister becomes of age. And then maybe her sister won't participate and perpetuate the same stuff against our younger brothers.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so I'm gonna shut it down, but this was great. I always like these conversations. I'm always into these conversations, because at this time, like, unfortunately, we don't have a choice. Like men everywhere. Men men wherever they are, like especially the black man, don't have a choice because we were forced into this wall. You know what I mean? And so this is what we have to do. You know, this is this is the unfortunate thing we have to do. You know, and we may be hated for it and things like that, but we still got to do it regardless. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's their fault. It was something that they chose, and just like we have to lay in the beds we made. It's the same thing for them because if they get to make beds and not lay in it, that means they're not adults. And if they're not adults, then they're the ones who should be celibate.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
But inshallah, may Allah bless you. May Allah bless your family. And let's get back on here again. And let's just keep this momentum going.
Exactly, sir. May Allah bless your family twice as much. And I will send to you a notice when I get ready. Are you on Facebook, sir?
I'm on Facebook and I'm also on Discord too. I'm actually on Discord.
Okay. All right then. So for Facebook, go ahead and put in a private chat for me if you can, your name, and then I'll look you up and add you or send an ad request.
Okay.
And if you're on Discord, then I'm not sure exactly which room you're in, but are you allowed to do invites to yours? Because I don't have invite capabilities in the rooms. I'm new to them.
No, I don't think so. I don't think I have it, unfortunately.
Okay, then I have to. I guess I just have to give the username then and put that in the private chat. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe so. Maybe so.
Okay, then
I put my Facebook. I put my Facebook name in there though.
Oh, you did? Okay. All right then. So, okay. All right. Now, is it okay that Red Pill stuff is on your page or no? Your Facebook page?
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, put it on. It's okay. You can put it on there. That's fine.
Okay. All right. And I'm doing a search now. You'll get an ad request from me soon. And
okay.
Let's see. I'm typing it in now, and then yep, there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Your name filled in finally. Lived in LA, right?
Yeah, I'm still living in LA right now. Yeah.
But it says that you lived there.
I don't know why. That's weird. That's weird.
Okay. Now, does the name Kaedi mean anything to you?
Oh no, that's my backup page. I think the other page has if the other page has my full name on it, then that's the main page I use. The main page I use, it should have a picture of me in a thobe. That's the main page.
Okay, all right. Let's see this one then. 613 friends, right?
No, I think that's the backup page. The other page I have way more friends.
Okay, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Yeah, this is not you don't know anybody named Idrissa Maman, I guess, huh?
I may know.
This guy's not in the States. I can tell none of his photographs are in the States. And let me see if there's another photograph. Let me see if it's a thobe in here. Is Nipsey Hussle in the picture?
Okay, that one is the backup page.
Okay.
The other main page, I have the 2 Cuban flags on the bottom, and I have the thobe, and I have my fist up. That's the main page.
Oh, that's not on here yet. Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. There's a button that says see all. So let me find that one then. Let's see.
Unless they're hiding it.
Okay, let's see. 2 Cuban flags and in the background, and then but you got to throw with your fist up. Yeah, it's not coming up. Sorry about that.
Okay,
so I'll send you the name of mine then. Oh, yeah. Nope, there it is. There it is.
Okay, good.
Okay, yep. Yeah, you're standing looking at the 2 Cuban flags. I got it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just found it. I'm gonna go ahead and try to send this request.
Okay.
Actually, it doesn't give the option to do that. There's just the option to follow.
Shoot, man, it should give a request. So, I don't know.
Look,
try to shoot a Facebook message, and then I can just add you through there.
Okay. All right. Okay,
It's
you're going to
weird.
see one from. All right, you're
Yeah,
going to see
it's
one from
weird.
Kickin That's going to be the
Okay.
name
Okay.
from whom you get a message now. And
Okay.
then I'm going to put inside of this private chat now. I'm going to put in my Discord name, the Discord server name.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So then I can
Okay.
send you the notice as soon as I know the time that I'm going to go live and give these ladies a chance to come on and try. I say try to make a case for why men should still approach them in the West.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Definitely. I'll be in the background listening and we can go from there.
I look forward to it, sir. And Jeddah
Okay.
Mababa.
I'm John Rama.
All right. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Walaikum salam rahmatullah barakatuh.